Today we have a huge new announcement by Palantir introducing Foundry for Builders. I'll get to that, talk about the impact Palantir Cloud Pak for Data could have possibly had on IBM for their earnings report they just announced, and also news breaking yesterday that Palantir is involved in another SPAC deal, this time Fast Radius, which is going public via a $1.4 billion SPAC deal. So I'll get to all of that. Let's go. So here we have the official introduction of Foundry for Builders. Yes, July 20th. This is sort of the end of the news drought for Palantir. We are finally getting some new news heading into earnings season. The headline here being world-class software platform now available to early-stage companies. Palantir announced today the launch of Foundry for Builders, an initiative dedicated to supporting early-stage companies by providing them with a Foundry platform, helping support their growth. For Palantir, Foundry for Builders marks a continued expansion of its business beyond large organizations with complex data environments to younger companies, which is great to hear. It's something I've been talking about, especially more recently. The Foundry platform transforms the way organizations operate by creating a central operating system for their data. This is nothing new. We hear this all the time. It is designed to scale with increasing complexity, meaning it will be able to support these companies as they grow while powering data-driven decision-making from the outset. And this is huge. This is something I was reading about in the Palantir Foundry book that I talked about in a previous video. It is so crucial for Foundry to be designed to be able to scale with a given organization. And I think the platform is really going to be put to its limits, starting at these early stage companies, these SPACs, these startups that really have so much farther to go if all goes right. Under Foundry for Builders, Palantir will sell Foundry to startups under a subscription model, first to companies connected to Palantir alumni, before expanding the initiative to other early stage companies. The first group of companies are startups in varied sectors, ranging from healthcare to robotics to software and fintech. Very interesting, they're choosing to pursue a subscription model. They obviously have to make Foundry much more accessible to these startups, and they're choosing to have a more limited approach to start only connecting to alumni before expanding, as they say. So it appears they have already chosen the first few companies that are going to be using Foundry for Builders. Chapter, Hence AI, and some other ones. Pretty varied in what they do. Perhaps I'll dive into each of these companies in the future. The companies in the first Foundry for Builders cohort are using the platform to establish an internal operating system for their data in order to spend more time accelerating their unique value proposition and less on attempting to piece together all the necessary components. Palantir Foundry is offered as a fully managed software as a service and provides an end-to-end platform that spans from cloud hosting and data integration to flexible analytics, visualization, model building, operational decision-making, and decision capture. Having these capabilities as part of a single platform eliminates friction and protects against the loss of data history, security, and privacy as users move across siloed technologies. So here it looks like we have a quote from one of the CEOs of one of these companies that will be using Foundry for Builders, I should say. As we search for platforms to power our first application, Foundry was a no-brainer. It gives us 360-degree visibility into our customers, from lead generation to product feedback, and allows us to plug and play our mobile capabilities directly into enterprise data systems all over the government and commercial sector. Here's another quote. This is from Gecko. Our global network of robots and the critical industries they serve have created a data asset unlike anything in the world. Gecko is betting on Foundry to be a force multiplier, helping us scale our operations and accelerate our ability to help our customers get from data to value. In another application of Foundry, Palantir alums will be applying Palantir Foundry to the fragmented, opaque market of healthcare by integrating data across all Medicare plans and making recommendations of optimal coverage. I think healthcare, especially considering that CMO hire a few months back, will only continue to be a focus for Palantir, so good to see they are continuing to pursue it here. Foundry offers out-of-the-box security and compliance features which allow companies, including these startups, to work with sensitive data in accredited environments. The platform is currently being used in over 40 industries and sectors worldwide to accelerate the drug discovery process, reduce errors in manufacturing, optimize supply chains around the globe, and more. And here we get a signature quote from Shyam Sankar. We're excited to expand the use of Palantir Foundry to hyper-growth startups. These organizations have ambitious goals and are building their digital infrastructure around the Palantir Foundry for day zero. These companies don't suffer from not invented here pathologies and clearly show how building their SaaS offerings on top of Foundry could help shave years and millions of dollars off of their time to market. So here we have Sachin on Twitter, very good Palantir account, must follow, saying how Foundry for Builders marks the continued expansion down to these younger day zero companies, as Sham calls them. We've seen Palantir catering more to these sorts of companies with various SPACs to use Foundry in those environments and also testing Foundry in that way. But this is something else because these are startups, not SPACs. Again, the definitions could be a little cloudy, but Palantir is going to open it up to many more startups than they could possibly invest in SPACs. So as I talked about in my total addressable market video, Sachin has picked up on two things here. Number one, Palantir is going up market or staying at the top high end and expanding their TAM with Palantir Unlock, which I believe was announced before the Q1 earnings report, just like this announcement is coming before the Q2 earnings report. So moving Unlock and keeping in line with their higher end business, but two, on this other side, Palantir has made these strategic investments in SPACs that will play out in the next few years, and now we're seeing them even broaden their reach down to earlier startups. So I'll leave a link to this Twitter thread in the description if you want to click through these links here, but these are the different companies, Gecko and the rest of them. So overall, I am very excited to hear about this. This is one of the most exciting announcements yet because it means Palantir is continuing to move down market. In a previous video, I said I wasn't sure how long this would take. It could take many years before they actually make a considerable step for these smaller companies and startups. I was literally saying this in my last video, and here Palantir is announcing this start of the program. It's not open to all startups. It's not going to happen immediately, but it's really amazing that Palantir is going to continue to pursue the high end, move adjacently, as we'll get to with some IBM stuff, and also move down market with this new platform. It's all happening at the same time. Not everything's going to go right. Not everything's going to be perfect. There are a lot of operating costs involved, but it's really exciting to see how this plays out. So it's pretty obvious that since Palantir is starting at the top end, big businesses, Fortune 500 companies, and not medium to smaller size businesses that could unlock Palantir's TAM are not currently being served, not to mention startups or just individuals running a small business. If Palantir was to unveil in the future, again 5 to 10 to 15 years out, an additional product to move down market, Foundry Lite, something else, a lighter, less powerful, less advanced, but more mobile, more agile product that any startup in the world could use to analyze, keep track of, and empower their operations, that would more than double their effective TAM. Naturally, catering to these smaller businesses, your prices have to be much less in value. So sure, your market may increase 10 times, but you'll have to charge 5 times less, or maybe even 10 times less, or 15 times less. So that's where I see Palantir effectively pricing themselves much lower because otherwise these companies would not be able to afford, these smaller businesses not be able to afford. We've heard about how expensive Palantir's products are, and it's justifiable because they're the only ones on the market offering what they do. But it's very difficult for a small business to be able to afford Palantir Foundry. Quick look at the stock here. Looks like it's up 1% in pre-market. Of course, it's been selling off lately, but I think this is some of the most exciting news we have gotten in the last few months. It's not anything groundbreaking per se, but it's more an indication of the future direction of Palantir, which I find very exciting as a long-term shareholder. So IBM just announced its earnings, and IBM and Palantir are partnered on the Palantir Cloud Pak for Data project. So I just want to run through what IBM's earnings and other financials are looking like. So they pull in $74 billion in the trailing 12 months for revenue. Their multiple is 1.7 times compared to Palantir's 32, but on the other hand, their growth year over year is a mere 3%. So it was a pretty good quarter for IBM. You'll read about that in the headlines if you want. I'm just scrolling through so you can see and you visualize this. Margins doing pretty well. This is not a groundbreaking quarter, but a pretty good one. You'll see the revenue reflecting up here. And let's look at some other things here. So they did mention Palantir. I'll just pull it up in here. There's a tweet by Elliot Wong, a mention of Palantir. Look, the work we're doing with Palantir is a great example. And this is from IBM's earnings call. yesterday. Palantir runs on top of the cloud packs for data. That's a great example of what we're doing. We now have over 3,200 clients using our hybrid cloud platform. Well over half come through cloud packs. More than 2,000 of the IBM clients run cloud packs. That's more than 2,000 potential clients for PLTR with relatively easy installation. Runs straight on top. So you can read about that here. It's the same thing. It's just a quote right there. And I wasn't able to find anything specifically mentioning Palantir in the press release, charts, or prepared remarks. But before jumping to any conclusions about how Palantir could have significantly positively affected IBM's earnings, I think it's more of this adjacent partnership, adjacent being the TAM moving sideways as I talked about before, is a slight benefit for both IBM and Palantir and their core businesses. I don't think as it stands currently, Palantir is driving significant value for IBM, as big as the company is. So I don't think Palantir's impact has yet been realized or will even be realized to a meaningful degree for IBM in the future. But overall, just having the partnership, it's very bullish that it even exists. So swinging back around to congratulate IBM on the quarter, they said in the second quarter, client adoption of our hybrid cloud platform contributed to strong performance in GBS and software and drove improved overall revenue growth. At the same time, we continued to help clients infuse our AI-based technology offerings into their core business workflows. So I have to imagine that is part of what the Palantir IBM Cloud Pak for Data thing is all about. So I'm not trying to disparage the impact of Palantir's partnership. I just don't think it is the reason that IBM is able to say we are pleased with our progress and we remain on track to deliver full year revenue growth and meet our cash flow objective. I think Palantir is a piece in a larger puzzle for IBM of investing more in cloud, in AI, in such emerging technologies. Anyways, last thing I wanted to touch on today is Fast Radius, this other SPAC. We just talked about how Palantir very much interested in working with SPACs and even now startups, which I find very exciting. Get these companies as early as they can, get them in on Foundry, get them going on the platform, and derive some significant value from them on a subscription model too. Very, very exciting. So here we have Chicago-based Fast Radius uses its cloud platform and manufacturing techniques, including 3D printing, to accelerate product development for customers. So it's going public at $1.4 billion via a SPAC. Investors include UPS. And again, the pipe, this is what we see every time. It's how Palantir gets in on it. Features a forward purchase agreement with Goldman Sachs and investors, as I said, from UPS and Palantir Technologies. Alright, so I will leave it there for today. 3 exciting stories, Palantir's newest product offering, the success of IBM on their Q2 earnings, ahead of the announcement for Palantir coming on August 10th, and another SPAC that Palantir is getting involved with. So I'll leave it there for now. Leave a like if you found this roundup insightful. Until next time.